Hey guys, it's kind of funny. So on my video of Night Elf Reforged gameplay, this guy Singe Horizontal said, "Hi, I have to say it somewhere. Sorry to choose this place. Last night, Follow Grubby was condescending to someone who was criticizing the Wisp Portrait. So I wrote, I hate what Grubby is becoming, and got banned for that. Maybe perma. Alright, I don't really know how Grubby perma bans you from anything, but I guess that's what he can do. So what we're going to do, just because I find it entertaining, is we're going to actually change the Wisp Portrait to see if we can make it look better. Or you'll have to you'll have to enter in the comments of this video, is it better or worse? So here's my Wisp. First we're just going to test the game and look at the Wisp, and then we're going to actually make a better Wisp Portrait, just to say we can. So that should be good. Now that I saved this, I should be able to launch it. And we'll just take a look at that Wisp Portrait. This will be great. So the first off question is, I think what he was saying, it looks like a disembodied elfin head or something, right? He doesn't like that. Obviously, we're just going to make it a lot better. I don't even know how, but I know that we're going to do that. So let's get it. Let's get that Wisp. Alright, this is just a test map I had with a bunch of units. Looks like I got some ghouls. See, there you go. Alright, there's that Wisp head. Look at that. It's just a little floating elf. So, obviously that looks like it's not finished, because they're like trying to make the old Wisp Portrait, but
I am the blade of the goddess.
they probably didn't finish.
We must
It's
act.
kind of interesting.
Someone threatens the wild.
Did you guys notice Tyranda's totally different looking? She's got like Tyranda stuff,
We are
The
poised to
goddess
strike.
calls.
different hair.
We must act.
That's kind of fun. Alright, that's a distraction. No, they're just hanging out over here. So, we're looking at this Wisp head. I'm still just kind of enjoying all these models and stuff, right? But we're looking at this Wisp head, and somebody's pointing out, okay, this Wisp head looks kind of awkward. It's just floating there. It's just a disembodied head. And when has the Wisp ever just been a disembodied head? So, obviously the key that we need to do is we need it to glitter like the original Wisp. I don't know if you guys remember, like, original Wisp, but obviously if we put, like, a Wisp in the classic game and you launch that, it's going to look a little bit different. So here's this Wisp again, right? Now this Wisp, oh, maybe it blacked out for you guys for a second. But yes, this Wisp is just a floating disembodied head. Classic game Wisp is also a floating disembodied head, but it's much more difficult to see, right? It's almost actually maybe like the head of a priest, but you wouldn't know it. I guess it's the head of a night elf, because it blends so well with the background. So it seems like what we should try to do is try to get that same level of blending and glowing going on, as opposed to just a floating disembodied elfin head, like what we see. Here is floating disembodied elfin head. So we should be able to do that. So let's actually just go to my tool here and just click on Unit Browser, and we'll just double click on Wisp. Now obviously the main Wisp, I don't really render particles in the tool, but we can edit the particles, we just can't see them. So this should be loading now, the Wisp head. In a second we should see it load up the magical floating disembodied head as well as the background. It's just doing some loading while I toggle the data there. Here we go. So this is our floating disembodied Wisp head, and you can see it's not glowing. So we need to make it translucent and we need to make it shine. And one of the questions is, what's a good translucency and what's a good particle? And I think one of the answers to that I was thinking about would be the blue fire doodad. They changed how this looked, and if we could get the blue fire, or like portions of it without the smoke, I think it could be really cool as a test. So I was thinking, let's actually get this blue fire, and we're gonna put that on the Wisp Portrait and see how that looks. So it should just be at least like import from Warcraft model, and I think we should be able to, oh, okay. So we can't import from Warcraft model because I broke it, but as long as you click in here so that it thinks you've modified the model so it stays open, we can browse to a different model and it'll keep both open at the same time. So we should be able to go then to, let's get the doodad browser over here. And we'll just put that in here next to these other browsers. But basically then we should be able to go to cinematic and get the fire blue. Or maybe not. Maybe we can't get the fire blue. Maybe there's something about my model loader that's broken on Reforged right now. I just haven't gone and fixed it. But, I mean, the backup system works. So if you just go in the actual world editor and we just look up fire blue, obviously we should be able to just query what is the location of this model file. Doodad cinematic town burning fire. So we should be able to just pull that up right here. Doodad cinematic town burning fire emitter blue. And as you can see there, it has its PKB file. So this doesn't really preview anything in my tool, but you can see it has the nodes. It has this popcorn effects emitter, which it looks like it's all rolled into one emitter, which is really sad because it means that unlike the old games thing, we probably can't easily separate the two different sorts of things. So one of the first things we'll do, I guess, it looks like we can't just separate the blue fire because it's all one emitter system. It's not like multiple emitters. I was hoping sometimes what they'll do with these is they'll actually have multiple nodes so you could split it up. The clouds, the smoke, the fire. But we don't have that. So we'll go back to the Wisp Portrait. And I guess my thought process is on the Wisp Portrait, let's actually do a file import from a file. What we're going to do, I actually have on my computer an old copy of this folder, and this is just patch 130. It's like in the past, and it should let us just import legacy Wisp. So we're just going to go units night elf Wisp in here, and we could just get the Wisp's old legacy portrait, and we're just going to get the blue fiery glow thing out of that because that seems like a reasonable place to get it. So we'll get this Wisp glow, and we're going to take this particle, and the key then is where do you want to link it? So obviously there's probably some kind of, I think HDNM bind joint would presumably be like the root of this thing. It's actually really curious how much stuff there is on there. Looks like that's on Bonehead. Yeah, okay. So HDNM bind joint I think is probably like the root most. Oh no, we actually can get Bonehead. Okay, let's do Bonehead. Does Bonehead have a parent? I just use this thing as a parent viewer. I really need, yeah, it has no parent. Okay, so Bonehead is like the root of the floating head. So yeah, we'll just link it to Bonehead basically. Or do we want to link it to its little dummy that it used to be linked to? I don't really know if we want to do that. Probably not. Okay, yeah, let's just start with the particle. So we're just going to start with this particle. It'll always be visible. It'll show all the time. And it's going to link to that same Wisp head. For what it's worth, we could probably also import the Wisp Portrait animation, although the particle should really probably work anyway. I don't know if you guys can't hear me because all this music going on, so let me just turn that down a bit. But yeah, so this import should be done. We should be able to just click finish on that. And as you can see, it'll dunk in our little particle node here, which actually produces the particle effect. And the key is we just want that to be on this Wisp head so that it's actually shimmering and glittering like the old one. Now the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually save this Wisp portrait. Let me save it in my documents. And we're going to want to actually save it as a MDL text-based model. Oh, look at that. It actually failed. So this is an experimental program for Reforged. It looks like we're crashing on line 1508, which might mean we'll lose the model. It's really interesting and bad. It seems like when we added the node, we didn't add bind pose for it. So I'm not exactly sure why that wouldn't add bind pose. In theory, I would have thought that my import panel during this merge operation would actually do, let's see, inside of do import, there should be code where it would actually imported nodes would actually just append the nodes to the model, I would have thought. There we go, objects added. So we list through object panels. We loop through all the object panels, we add them to the objects added, and then at the end we actually should in theory add objects added to the model. Yeah, current model dot add the object. which in theory should say is bind pose supported of the current format version, and then stick bind pose on it. I guess this is erroneously checking if it is a bone, which we don't want to do. We want to just do it to the object X. Okay, so that's unfortunate. Obviously, while I'm developing these things, sometimes we just have live changes to stuff. So I think what we'll do, here's what we'll do. We're going to launch the program again, having fixed it. We'll launch the fixed version, and then we're going to open the Wisp Portrait again. And then we can just copy this particle that we already set up and paste it in the other version of the program between the versions, so that we get to save our model, basically. So this should be good. It's just loading right now, so this will be done really quickly. And we'll just have the program starting up sooner than you know it. All right, great. So here we are. We'll just open Night Elf again. We'll just open Wisp again, and then we'll go in Window and switch to the portrait model. Somebody once asked me, why do I split the model and the portrait model into separate files? I don't split them. They're actually split by Blizzard. That's how they're stored. So I'm just trying to be true to the format. Anyway, so here we get to the actual Wisp head. And now the key is we're going to go to the previous version of my software where we made this particle. We're going to Control-C it, and we'll just Control-V that particle right here, dumping it into our new model. Now, of course, unlike before, since this was pasted in here, it wasn't linked to the head. It's just a drop-in. So we're going to actually want to find Bonehead and link that up. And this should give us the ability, if we actually save this as MDL, it should be valid now because node adding correctly handles bind pose. That was just a bug. So we're going to call this Wisp Portrait. It already exists. That's okay. We're going to overwrite it. And then we should be able to go to my models folder here that we were just looking at. And get to this Wisp Portrait. And basically what happens with this is that we can actually go into the text-based version here, and we should be able to modify the way that it renders to actually hopefully be somewhat translucent. So you can see Wisp Diffuse has got to be the face, so that would be texture 0. So things that use texture 0. So they already put an alpha on it. I guess maybe it is already, to some extent, translucent. Obviously not very much, but it does make me wonder if we were to look at a different character with some level of translucency, maybe we could borrow some of the functionality. If you think about like Spirit of Vengeance or something, is this even translucent or is this just blue? Because in theory we could try to like borrow the same concept, right? It really kind of just looks blue. It doesn't really look translucent. I'm not really sure that translucency is working as intended. Let's make it like more translucent. But also in the old system, it wasn't supposed to be none. If you wanted it to be translucent, it would have to be blend or additive. So I don't know what happens if I make this additive while it's using the shader, but we'll find out. So let me just do that, and we'll just open up Wisp Portrait. And oh, okay, this was a typo. I guess it needs to be .mdl. I really need to fix that. That's really a silly bug. So let me just save this. So I'm saving it back to binary so we can put it in the game. So what we do then is we go back to our map and we just import basically this Wisp Portrait. And this should just dump into our model, and then we just go to the path and just say units Night Elf Wisp Portrait. And then when we test our map, it should be the case. Now we might need to close it out of here first, but when we test our map, it should be the case that the Wisp face will be a lot more translucent and should have some particle effect coming off of it. Now the particle effect might not work correctly or might be kind of dark because I'm mixing legacy particles with HD models, but I figured it's worth a shot anyway just to see how it turns out. So well, let's try it here. Should also be a lot more translucent, so hopefully we won't even see it. It'll just be kind of like the outline of a face, kind of like it was before. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Let's check it out. There you go. So you can see we've added the particle of the Wisp. And, you know, honestly, I feel like that looks pretty good, but I feel like the eyes should be brighter. You know, because now it has that look like it's an outline of a Wisp. Also, looks like we didn't hit the hair. So I feel like the hair should be equivalently faded, if not more faded, and the eyeballs should be really bright and like layered on top. So the hair must be something else that uses 0. This guy, yeah, this must be the hair because this is also mapped to 0. So for the hair, let's also do an additive, and let's also apply the alpha. We'll make the hair translucent just the same. So it's a translucent wisp and it has translucent hair, but we got to do something about the eyes to make them brighter. So we'll open recent of the Wisp Portrait here. Really got to do something about those eyes. It should be loading up. Yeah, I guess it loaded. So in theory, this might even render as, yeah, it's kind of rendering some translucency there. So as you can see, this program I think is aware of the translucency. Doesn't it look like it applied the translucency to the hair? All right, I'm skeptical. I think it didn't reload. Yeah, I didn't push save over here. That's the problem. All right, let's. My preview of the model is not very accurate, but it is accurate of whether it's in that additive blend mode. So yeah, here you can see the hair is actually blue and translucent. So that's good. Now it's going to be mostly particle that you're seeing and not a lot of hair stuff. But I really feel like the eyes should be like brighter and layered on top or something. So to do that, what is actually the nature of these eyes? How are they built? Do they have a little glow on them? Or are they just little round balls? It kind of looks like they're just little round eyeballs. So we should probably be able to just go to the eyeballs and try to see, is this sectioned off in multiple pieces at all? Not really. Okay, so I wonder if I can use this. Yeah, and we just deselect everything except the eyeball. So we just have pretty much the eyeballs right there. And then what we're going to do is, what if we just right click and say split geoset? I think this will work. I haven't used split geoset on a Reforged model yet. So let me just save this as Wisp Portrait 2 to make sure it still saves after I do that. Yeah, it looks like it does. Okay, great. So now that I did that, what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to try to import from unit. But I'm thinking I'm going to import from the Wisp. I really need to shrink these icons. They used to be at their default size in the old game, but now they're stupid. Oh, no, okay, that is not allowed. We'll just double click the Wisp again, then that should reload. Yeah, so I really need to do something about a lot of the model loading things in this are busted. But back in my custom Wisp portrait, we should be able to import from workspace and just get the bottommost, the most recent Wisp portrait. We're going to put that thing's textures back on the eyes in the hopes that that'll make them brighter. Now, I don't know if this thing has eyelids, this could screw up. I was kind of assuming it didn't have eyelids, but I don't really know. So we go to this bottommost geoset guy, and we're going to give it that brighter, solid-looking texture, but only on the eyes, so the eyes stand out, because I feel like that could look pretty good. So you do that, and yeah, actually that kind of looks really soulless because they're dark. So let's actually, let's go back to the text-based format where we can just change all kinds of stuff. And what we're going to do then is actually, yeah, we'll go back to that, Wisp 3 here. I feel like the eyes need to be using some kind of bright thing. Yeah, let's just do textures slash solid white. What is that? That's going to be texture ID 12. So the bottommost guy here is going to be texture ID 12. Seems reasonable enough. And I think that should let us give it really bright eyeballs. Let's see. Really, really bright Wisp eyeballs. Let's see. Yeah, that is almost creepy and not even bright enough. But it'd be kind of interesting to see what that looks like in game. Although I am also interested if we turn off everything except the eyeballs and we actually go to UV maps, we might be able to, we can do better really than that. So since we could do that, let's go to edit textures again. And now that this is a separate texture, it should just load right up. Oh, that's interesting. The Wisp actually has a huge amount of texture information there. All right, this eyeball, let's just do like green glow 2, 3, 3, sure. We'll give it like some green eye, or should it be blue eyes? Maybe you guys like blue eyes. Nah, let's do green eyes, that looks fine, right? So we'll give it like this nice big glow. And then this just means that we have to edit the actual UV mapping of that. I guess it's already open. Yeah, here we go. We load image, but it doesn't want to load the image. So the load image thing only works after you've saved the model and it's revalidated the texture data. So we got to do that. And then we can load image. And then we can load, oh, it still didn't. Okay. Yeah, so I guess the problem is that there's too many layers. The Reforged code has confused my renderer thing. But you can still scale the eye up and make sure it fills the entire texture. And we can just imagine in our minds it's going to be that green glowing texture. Maybe we want it to only fill part of the texture. And then when you go back here, you can see that this green glow is mostly filling the eye. So I've kind of customized the appearance of the eye, mostly with the intention that I should be able to save this now back to a text-based file and actually brighten that up programmatically in there. So we have that. One of the things I think we could do in this this bottommost layer, here's this green glow thing, right? We want it to be solid, but I think we also want it to be emitting brightness of the green glow. So we can actually make it emissive, which means to glow on its lower layer. And this will use the new Reforged shader stuff to mean that those eyes are glowing green and not just a dull green. And then on top of that, it's like maybe we don't even want it to be alpha. Maybe we just want it to be solid glowing eyes. Oh, and it does have a emissive of 2 on here. I don't actually know exactly how that works, but let's go ahead and put a emissive of 2 on this green and glowing too. So that should be pretty good. Let's try that in game. I don't know exactly what that'll be like, so I'm kind of curious. Oh, not 3 though. We want to open Wisp Portrait 5. That guy we just edited in the text-based thing. So yeah, it should be good. Doesn't really look different in here, but it might look different in game. So it's Wisp Portrait 5. And we should be able to just go back to the world editor. You should see our, it's Wisp Portrait. We just do a replace file, and we replace it with that latest custom Wisp Portrait. And we'll save the map, and we'll check it out in game. Great. All right, here we go. Should be starting up. You guys ready for it? What's it gonna look like? Oh wait, the glow got dark. I didn't want the glow to get dark. So you can see the eyes are green. That looks pretty good. But the glow became blackish. It's not supposed to be blackish. That's really interesting. Right? That glow used to be just solid color. Now it's color and black. We gotta fix that. That's a weird thing right there. So let's fix that glow. So that glow is actually this particle. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. There is a particle that's already there, but it's not the particle that I added. I added my own particle. So their particle is invisible. Oh! Oh, they have their own particle and they just turned it off with alpha 0. Let's put 0 alpha on my particle and turn on their particle. Maybe their particle looks good. I don't know. Let's find out. What kind of particle did Blizzard put on it? They had like an experimental particle that they turned off. All right, let's see. Here's this one. Wisp 6. Yeah, let's just try that. That'll be really interesting. I'm curious to see what that looks like. Wait, did I not? Let me do that again. Save as Wisp 6 binary. Okay. Cool. So we do that. Yeah. Cool. And we'll just test the file, test the map, see how it goes, and see what we get.
Forces are under attack.
Oh, Blizzard's particle is not working. It's not good. You can see a little tuft of thing on his face, but it's not. I don't know if my software changed it or if it just doesn't work, but we gotta bring that particle back. So we'll turn off Blizzard's particle here and we'll put in mine. Let's see. Yeah, so here's mine, but obviously mine is getting way too dark at the end. I'm not sure why that is. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess maybe the key is, what if instead of blend, I wonder if we should do an additive. You guys think we should do additive particle? I mean, what if we do an additive particle just to see it? It could be fun. It might be too bright. It really might be too bright, but it could be fun. Let's try it. All right, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna save it as a binary. Wisp Portrait 6. We'll put it in the game. Wisp Portrait 6. Great. Let's check it out. Saving, building, blah blah blah. Creating archive. Boom, 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 boom. And we'll see what we get. All right. Let's see. Yeah. What do we got down here? You know, that looks kind of okay, right? I feel like it still is, there's something about it that's throwing me off. And maybe it's the eyes. Maybe it's what I did with the eyes. Is it too much? It's too much. All right, let's change the eyes. And then, you know what else? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna change the eyes so that they are brightly green, but additive. Because right now they're not additive, which is weird. All right, so we'll make the eyes additive. But I also feel like the portrait background, which is now texture, what is this, 4, 5, 6. So texture ID 6, this guy. This portrait background is kind of bright, you know? It's like, don't we want to make the portrait background dimmer? Which I think could be accomplished by just alphaing it out. But it just seems like it's too bright of color, right? Like, all I see is this bright red color, and I don't see much wisp face. So we're going to do that, and then that should let us actually open the Wisp Portrait. As you can see, the eyes shouldn't stand out quite the same on here. Yeah, they're a little bit better. And then as far as the background and that stuff, I was also thinking that we might benefit from a camera angle that's closer to the original classic Wisp camera. I don't exactly know, but I'm kind of curious if we could get that classic Wisp portrait. If I go to, yeah, just this file folder again. Basically, this is a backup of all the data from the classic game. We go to the classic Wisp portrait. So this guy, he has this sparkling head, right? A sparkling elfin head. And so what I'm wondering is, well, the first thing I notice when I look at this is that we have all those sparkles. It's almost like, should we just take the sparkles? But we also have this interesting camera angle thing. So maybe we could just take all of it. Let's just take all of it. All right, we'll just take all of it. So we go back to this guy. Here's what I'm going to do. Oh, that's not really what I meant to do. Let's just import from the workspace. Let's just take all of it. That other one. Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking. We could take not the head, but we'll take the dust. And probably not the team glow, I guess. Wisp and dust. Just all the dust stuff. And then, yeah, we can get the animations just in case. These things are fine. Yeah, these are probably all fine. This dummy orbit random. We already got this particle. I click uncheck unused, so we're not going to import any unused things. And that should be pretty good. One of the things I wanted is I want to import this camera. That was my other thought, is we're going to get the camera angle from like the OG old Wisp. So that should then let us, can I actually select the camera and push delete? Oh, no, I never implemented that. That's really silly. I should implement that. Let's see. So yeah, I was trying to give us the dust that the original Wisp had. Some of that dust and some of the camera stuff. Yeah, okay. There you go. So yeah, you can even actually see my attempt at previewing it over here. But basically, it'll just give us that dust to try to make it look even more like the original Wisp. That's kind of what I was thinking. And it's a different camera angle, so it might be fun. Let's see. It does make me wonder, though, in terms of this Wisp. So the camera target is right inside of his head. So we got to do that on ours. We got to make sure that this arrow, this big green arrow shape of the camera, needs to point right into the head. It's like right into the head like that. Although it feels like maybe the head is actually bigger on this one. Sure. So we'll get our target arrow pointing right into the head. And then we really got to get rid of that old camera. So let me actually save this again as like Wisp Portrait 7. We'll increase the numbering. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Oh, that's really stupid. That is really stupid. Interesting. It's not letting me use this newer camera. And the newer camera is now preventing us from saving, much to my dismay. So we're going to actually make the old camera be like the new camera. And then we're going to put it in about the same place as the way the old camera would have been. And then we got to get the old camera the heck out of this model. How are we going to do that? It doesn't actually let me delete the old camera, which is really unfortunate. So what we're going to do, I think, is we're going to open this custom Wisp Portrait again, and we're going to import from Workspace one more time. We're going to import our working data that we were just working on. Or not. Or maybe we're not. Okay. This is really not cool. I really need to get rid of that camera, this corrupted camera, so that we can have our good Wisp Portrait. And it looks like I accidentally included the eyes of last year's Wisp. They're in there floating around. So let's actually get rid of them. But yeah, how do I get rid of that camera? How do I remove a camera? So this thing, these eyes, we're gonna get rid of. We don't need them. But how do I fix the camera? I guess what I need to do is I need to look at remove a camera, or get cameras. See, here's the problem. This adding of a camera is not checking this whole bind pose nonsense like it should have been doing. But even if I fix that, how do I fix this model? I don't want to lose my progress. That's what I'm struggling with right now. So obviously, it's basically just my model blender program is still experimental. But I need to get out of this and get rid of that camera, and it's not going to let me save while that camera's in there. So I think I know what we're going to do, and it's really, really dumb. So here we go. If we go back to this old Wisp, we're actually going to assign it format version 800, which basically tells this model to be a classic model instead of an HD model, which will turn off the problem behaviors, and it should allow me to import from it here and import into HD. Oh, really? No, it still doesn't. Well, that's just a little bit special. All right, let's go back to this and save. We just got to save it. We want to back up our data. So this is underscore backup. It is clearly not backing that up. Underscore BK. Really? Really, really, really? Okay. So in the main panel system, when I assign format version 800, it doesn't seem to me that that is working, because if it was format version 800, shouldn't it be unable to get that bug where we do MDL, is it 1508? Where it says that it's null, that the bind pose is null. So what I'm seeing is that this isn't blocked out by model util. So we just got to do some quick fixing here. Is bind pose supported in format version? So that if bind pose is not supported, and I'm using bind pose supported to decide whether to save the face effects. If those are not supported, we don't attempt to save them. But it looks like this is going to be hard to get rid of. So let's actually try this horrible HD SD button. That might actually clean the data so that I can save a freaking backup. Oh yeah, it already exists. No, it doesn't. All right, we got our backup with our HD SD button. That's horrible. This might let me import from the local working backup the data and ignore the old new camera. Basically, only get the stuff that we want. So this is it's just a little bit ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. So basically, all we need to do on here is we don't need any particles, and we don't even need the camera. We just want that camera. And then I think visibility should be the same. Yeah, so basically it'll bring in all that dusty stuff we had there, gets us back to more or less like this in the HD model, but it lets us save, right? We can basically overcome the problem we were having and save as version. So oh, it doesn't let us save. Really? Because the camera is, again, bad. Okay. Okay, that didn't work. Let's do it again. Let's do it again. I got a new idea. So here's the fundamental problem. The camera converted to an SD camera when I fixed it so I could save the model. So we can import stuff, but we have to be smarter. We'll get our two new dust planes, and we'll get basically nothing in terms of objects. We'll uncheck the unused bones. This will get us the dust planes, okay, but not the camera. Just the dust planes, just this looking thing without the camera. And then I should be able to save this as version 8. It actually saves, right? Now if I turn on the camera and I go way back to this older version, you can see, we can begin to see how we want the camera to be, but now I have to just make the camera be like that. So the way that that camera was, it had the target inside of the head, just right in there. And then this was this direction, and we should be able to double check with that. Yeah, so that was that direction, and up here, and kind of like that. So this might work. Let's save it as a binary of 8 and try it in the game. We're just trying to get that camera moved around. I really got some work to do on my software. As you can see, those are some really painful bugs. But we worked through them. And we should be good to go. So let's just see what we got on that Wisp Portrait. Should be pretty great. At least I'm hoping it should be. We'll see what we got there. Kicking it off, and we'll be able to take a look and see, do we end up with something that looks a little bit better, maybe, than it looked before. Maybe with some of that OG legacy Wisp dust floating around on there.
Our forces are under attack.
Yeah, so that's interesting, but not quite what I intended, because we're definitely too zoomed in. So we definitely need to zoom out. And we might even want to sort of tilt down a little bit. Where's that other? Yeah, like out that way, maybe, and tilt it down. So we see these nice, the nice smoke stuff behind it. It is interesting that if you look at this wisp, it's clearly made to be seen from this side. So that gives me an idea. Okay, here's my other idea. If we go to these nodes, and we can maybe turn off some of these nodes, we turn on Bonehead. This is actually all the wispy things. Let's just go to all that and just mirror it across the x-axis so that the face is like this side, so we know that it's seen from this side, right? Cool, so this is going to be Wisp 9. And let's see if I got the camera to zoom out. Obviously, someday I should build a tool that lets you actually just preview the camera in my software. Magos does that. It's smart. It's a lot better and a lot easier. My code should be that way. It really should, and it's currently not. So there's definitely, you know, if you're like an open source developer and you want to download my code and add camera preview for camera editing, that would really be nice. That would really be a good thing, because we're not about to use Magos on this model as long as it has Reforged data in it. Now, maybe you could decide for yourself that you don't want it to have Reforged data. Maybe you could just make it an old style model, but I hadn't done that yet. It does still have, you know, whatever's in there as far as Reforged. So yeah, there you go. That's an interesting Wisp. I don't think I like it yet. I think it needs to be different. So let's keep changing it. Let's actually, first off, like, this looks way better. Why doesn't it look like that in game? I think it could still be maybe a little bit further away in the camera. Does it seem true to you guys that it kind of looked like, you know, we could zoom it out a little bit more? But also, as well as zooming it out, it seems like we might want it to be, there's a lot of up, I guess. We might actually want to Wisp 11 here. I feel like it needs to be crisper. The more I look at it, it's like the geometry of the head is in fact too faded and does need to be crisp. So let's actually increase that to a 0.7 on the face. And just maybe that'll just make that a little bit better. Let's see, Wisp 11. Let's try that in game. It does make me wonder if we should change it back to like a blend mode. Let's see, Wisp 11. And we'll check it out in game. Let's see. Of course, the other thing I guess I kind of messed up is that you might not be able to actually see this thing anymore unless if I rotate it and put it over there. So you might want to do that. We'll see, that might be good. This viewer down here is broken sometimes. All right, great. It's also it's a little bit big. I feel like it could be like a lot smaller. You know. It was more like that. Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's just put that updated one in the game. So when we do test here, I was kind of thinking I was changing that wall. We're waiting for the game to save, but let's just test the absolute latest in the game. Might make the background a little too small there, but we can always make it bigger again, so that should be good. All right, great. Hopefully, we'll be just a little bit more zoomed out, and we'll get a little bit better of an outline to the shape of the head. So it does seem a little bit more head-like, hopefully there. We'll see. Excuse me.
Our forces are under
All right.
attack.
Let's see what we got. How's that wisp head doing? Great. So there's our little wisp head for us. You know, I mean, that looks fine. I think that looks fine. You know, let's send this to, let's actually send that to Blizzard, right? Oh, I guess it doesn't have the player color. That's true. It needs player color. And we need to have, it needs to be effective, right? You gotta always have it be effective. So the player color thing, I don't know what it's doing, but obviously I don't see it when I look at that. So let me just like make it a little bit bigger. Let's see. It ought to be more obvious, maybe like there. That should probably have some bright. That's probably too bright. It'll probably be way too bright. Let me actually just save that as the binary. Import it again, and we'll check it out. Great. Yeah, there we go. This will be team color now. It should be red. For what it's worth, let's put like a blue wisp somewhere off in some corner of the map that I can find with true sight or cheat codes, I mean, to see the whole map. So you can see what does the portrait look like when you're not the red player. And can you effectively tell the difference in efficient time when you see the portrait versus when you see after the portrait. Yeah, so we'll check that out. We'll see here. See what we got. What do we got here?
Our forces are under attack.
In game. Yeah, see, there you go. It's got a little bit of red in the background. I kind of think maybe if we use the OG Wisp red, that might even look better. But, you know, that way, like, the blue Wisp has blue back there, and this red Wisp has that red back there. Yeah, so there you go. That's my Wisp portrait for the day. We made it. You can see the eyeballs clearly stand out, but the rest of it doesn't really need to stand out, right? And it feels more wispy. It's not like a little floating disembodied head. I mean, I would feel good if that was the Wisp portrait, I feel like. Maybe we'll use that. We'll just send that to Blizzard, and we'll just use that. We didn't even have to use the blue fire. We just used the Wisp itself. All right, guys. Hope you have a good one, and let all your Wisp dreams come true. This Wisp does look really cool. You got to give it that. It looks really cool.